make sure if you're in a psychosis or you're recovering from psychosis to focus on grounding. That's the most important piece in the recovery process. And if you don't feel like you're grounded, it may not be the right time to investigate sort of the metaphysical or the supernatural, or anything like that. It might just be time for you to focus on grounding. So make sure you're taking care of yourself. Make sure you know where you're at and know what you can handle and what you feel comfortable exploring. Hey guys, it's Hayden here making another video. Today I want to talk about something that I haven't really openly spoken about before, and that is sort of the metaphysical aspects of psychosis. Let's get into it. So before we get into this video, I just want to thank you guys for supporting me. And again, thank you for getting me to 1,000 subscribers. That's awesome. I have started a new platform also, if you want to check that out. It's informalinquiry.wordpress.com, and I've got my services and more stuff about me, and I also have a blog posted on there, so if you're interested, check that out. And if you want to support me and my channel, you can donate on my PayPal, which I have linked to my account on YouTube, but I also put it in the description below. So if you're interested in doing that, feel free to do that. And yeah, pretty much. Let's get into the video. So, what I mean by metaphysical aspects of psychosis is basically experiences or understandings of the world or events around us that we wouldn't normally understand in a sort of normal state of reality, or with somebody who's maybe not trained to pick up on those things. So an example of that would be feeling other people's feelings before they even say anything to you, knowing people's thoughts before they say anything to you, having a sense of what's going to happen before it happens, like premonition. So basically like sort of psychic feelings or psychic understandings, or premonition, basically kind of, supernatural stuff, I guess you could say. And I've spoken with quite a few people who have gone through a psychosis now at this point, because there's quite a few people that reach out to me and I speak with them directly or through message. And, this is a pretty common theme amongst the people I've talked to and in my own experience. In my own experience, I was able to, especially my second psychosis, which was more gradual kind of process, where I gradually kind of moved into a more ungrounded state and eventually kind of flipped over to the other side, being completely ungrounded and not realizing that there was a grounded state of reality. And as I was sort of phasing into that psychosis state, I was able to really sense what my parents' concerns were about me, and I was able to facilitate that process with them and really talk about, like, I understand this is how you're feeling and how you're feeling, but this is what is going on with me. And so that process was really interesting to see unfold. And I was also in the hospital at one point, and I could sort of pick up on other people's energy. So an EMT walked into the room, and I started yawning, and I didn't know she was an EMT at the time, and I felt really tired. I'm like, somebody in this room is tired, it's not me. And then I found out, I looked over and I saw this lady that walked in had an EMT badge on her jacket. And as some of you may know, EMTs work pretty intense hours, so it can be pretty exhausting. And then as soon as she left, I stopped yawning and I was not tired anymore. And so those are things that some hypersensitive people or like psychics or whatever can sense sometimes, but it's not normally something I pick up on, but in that state I did. And so I think everybody probably has different experiences like this that were validated by like actual situations. And so I think it's important to address that this is something that does happen in psychosis. And because it happens in psychosis, what do we do with it? Because most people are told that they aren't real. It's not something that has any validity. But at the same time, this is a constant theme in these experiences. So what do we do with it? So when it comes to psychic and sort of supernatural abilities, quote unquote, I think it's important to take a look at spiritual traditions, because a lot of spiritual traditions, well, not a lot of them, but some of them mention the psychic abilities and actually most of them actually do mention the psychic abilities or the supernatural abilities that people can get as they go along their spiritual path. And for me, honestly, these perceptions and understandings aren't necessarily supernatural. It's just an ability to connect with our environment, an ability to connect with other people and understand ourselves and others in a way that is maybe a step above what most people perceive. And so I think when people experience these in psychosis, there's this openness that kind of happens when you're in that state that allows you to connect and see the environment in a new perspective, from a fresh perspective, from a more open and less sort of structured perspective. Because when we're in our daily lives, our consensus reality lives, we have a very strong rational brain that sort of filters through our experience and our perceptions. When you're in a psychosis, that rational brain is a lot less dominant. So some of the information, some of the sort of perceptions that we have will come in much stronger than it would normally. And so I think that's why people are experiencing those in their psychosis. And so for me, it's if somebody's trying to develop those or somebody's trying to experience those, psychosis is not the answer for that. Psychosis is by far not a healthy place to be. If it happens to you, that's what happens, and it's definitely not something that somebody should try to go back into to get access to this information or to get access to these abilities. That would be ridiculous for me to say. I think what the psychosis grants an opportunity to the people who experience it is a window to possibilities of what perception and understanding could be. And the problem with psychosis is there's tons of extra side effects that come along with the psychosis. So yes, our perceptions are open to these sort of revelations, but we're also completely non-constructive and non-functional in reality. But the truth is, we can actually have some of those understandings and perceptions while maintaining that groundedness and that centeredness that we have in consensus reality. And it takes practice, it takes work, it takes dedication, but it is possible. And that's basically the spiritual path. I read a book not too long ago about the spiritual development from a Native American perspective, or a Native American perspective, because there's lots of different Native religions and practices. But part of the development of a human person through a spiritual course of their life is being aware of these abilities that we have to connect and understand others and have these psychic abilities. And that's not, the goal is not to achieve those, but that's part of basically getting a larger experience, a greater depth of understanding from this life. I think it's important to address that these things are happening to people who experience psychosis, and to make sure that you don't feel alone in your experience. And just know, if you did have those experiences, it's possible that there is some validity to them. It's possible that there isn't. I think there's a lot of stuff that happens in psychosis that isn't valid, just because we're not in a state to actually think rationally. But it does open that door for the possibility. So if that's something that you're interested in, maybe you can find somebody that can help you develop those, or work on your spiritual development. Again, those shouldn't be the goal of spiritual development, but it's a side bonus of having that spiritual development. So if you found this video helpful or interesting, throw a like down below, or a comment, and As always, guys, make sure to seek your truth and to take time for yourself. And I will see you in my future videos. Bye for now.